I'm here with Andrea Burkhart and haven't talked to her in a while, but I thought today would be a good day because there is, as you may know, some big news in the Manson case, the Marilyn Manson case, particularly Esme Bianco's lawsuit. Now, you may know that Esme Bianco, a while back, she filed a $10 million lawsuit against Marilyn Manson for sexual assault and harassment, various other things, various other forms of abuse that she claimed. And so anyway, that's been going on for a while. It's been making its way through the litigation process, and found out just last night that Esme Bianco has settled her lawsuit with Manson for an undisclosed sum. And both Bianco and Manson's attorneys released statements, but they were very brief, really didn't tell us anything other than Miss Bianco has decided to move on with her life and has settled with Manson. And so I have heard some stuff behind the scenes. As you know, I have some sources close to the case, but I wanted to get your take on this, Andrea. And so, you know that I believe that Manson is innocent and nothing has changed that. In fact, some of our viewers may know that months ago, Esme Bianco's evidence, the evidence that she supposedly had against Manson, it leaked unintentionally in a court filing. And so several of us, including me, have seen this evidence, and I can just tell you there's nothing there. That there's nothing in there that indicates Manson's guilt. In fact, there are a number of things that are rather exculpatory for him. And I look forward to talking about that at a later date. But just now, based on what we just know, Andrea, what's your general take on this? What's your reaction to this settlement?
Yeah, my reaction is this is really an unequivocal win for Marilyn Manson for a lot of reasons. I mean, to the extent that all of these lawsuits were pitched as some sort of movement, some sort of public concern based motivation, that we need to make the world aware of who he is and protect other people and yada yada. We are seeing at the end of the day that no, it probably really is just about the money. Of course, we don't know how much the settlement was. I did see some questions people had about, well, isn't it possible he didn't pay her anything at all? It's theoretically possible, but that's extremely unlikely. There's nothing that would prevent her from just dropping the lawsuit and walking away if she wanted to do that. She doesn't need his permission or agreement. She doesn't need to go through a mediation to do that. So it reads as though, there has been some extraction from him in order to get her to move on. But the statements that were released are really the telling part to me. These very anodyne statements that have no apology, no admission of wrongdoing, no suggestion of even like that kind of hedging, sort of like, oh, maybe I misunderstood, like nothing, no concession to her at all. Which is, you would expect that if a condition like that were negotiated as part of the settlement, that would be part of the statement, that's released along with the news. So it looks very much like this is a nuisance payment. It quite frankly, reminds me of the statement about, why you don't hire a prostitute to come to you, you hire a prostitute to go away. And I really strongly get the impression that, this was a pay to go away situation. And quite frankly, it appears she was happy with that.
Let me ask you, as an attorney who's familiar with this kind of stuff, I don't know the amount that she settled for, but given that she asked for $10 million and given that she's not getting near that much and that it is apparently a nuisance payment, what would you as an attorney say, if you just had to guess ballpark, what do you think she's probably getting paid for a go away fee here?
Low six figures.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine as well.
Because you have to bear in mind, part of this too is that her lawyer's got a stake in this, and that's always a little bit of a complicating factor. He's put in a lot of time that he's going to want to be compensated for. They want to make sure that whatever she settles for is going to be enough to make everybody happy in that situation. So, yeah.
All right. So how does this, this could sort of play both ways in the media for Manson or against Manson, right? Some people will look at this and will say, well, he's paying her money to go away, so doesn't that indicate that he's guilty? A lot of people, including me, will look at this and say, well, I think that probably because the guy is fighting a war on multiple fronts and he's paying out the ass and has been for 2 years now, attorneys, major high priced attorneys. We're talking not only civil lawyers, because he's had multiple civil cases against him. As you know, some of those have been dropped or dismissed, but he's had multiple civil cases filed against him in the last 2 years. He's also had an extensive criminal investigation against him that has drawn to a close. And as you know, the police have already turned over their evidence file, or their lack of evidence file, I would think, to the DA, and the DA is just sitting on it. But nothing has come so far of the criminal investigation. But he's had to pay a criminal attorney, Blair Burke, one of the best criminal attorneys in the world. He's paying Howard King for all the civil stuff, also very pricey attorney. And then I know that he's also paying a crisis PR firm. All of these people cost, from my research I've done, all of these people cost $500 an hour. So he's paying $500 an hour to multiple lawyers and PR people for multiple cases and all kinds of stuff, right? And he's not been working since these allegations came out 2 years ago. And this is someone who is, as I understand it, and it's not only him, but it's a lot of rock stars are in this position, where his primary income comes from touring. It does not come from royalties or from, selling albums or whatever, right? Selling music. Sure. And so 2 years ago, his primary source of income, basically, almost his only source of income, was completely cut off. He hasn't worked in 2 years, nothing, right? And he's been just basically bleeding out cash with it's with all of these different multiple fronts that he's having to fight on in this war. I mean, it's almost like the Book of Job or something. This guy has had everything but the kitchen sink thrown at him, and he's still standing. And apparently he's doing well enough so that, some of these cases are getting dismissed, and some of these women, like Esme, are having to settle. But my question to you is, do you think that this was a good move for him to settle, or do you think that this was probably something that was precipitated by literally just running out of money and having no other option? What would your guess be?
Well, I think that it is likely a good move. And, very few things are kind of unequivocally good or bad, one way or the other. There's always going to be the silver lining to the cloud, as they say, or what, a touch of gray. But I think you nailed it on the head when you pointed out that the problem he has here is the multi-front war. And it doesn't really matter how strong your army is, how good your resources are. If you're being divided like that, you're just in a weakened position. And so the more that he can eliminate these collateral things that he's having to deal with and focus on the key, the core issue here, which is Evan Rachel Wood and Illma Gore, that's going to be to his benefit. That's where, from my perspective, the opportunity is for the real rehabilitation. Nobody, quite frankly, knows who Esme Bianco is or cares. So even if he goes to trial and he wins, this is not a big PR thing. It's like a okay, who cares? He beat a lawsuit against some nobody. But being able to win the lawsuit against Evan Rachel Wood and Illma Gore, that's quite a different scenario. That's potentially game changing in terms of his ability to be able to have, a comeback. So to the extent that this settlement, it's not ideal in a lot of ways, especially, if the case is weak, you want to see him be able to get that slam dunk victory, from a jury or something. But yes, as you pointed out, the cost of that is very, very high. So it's not ideal to have to sacrifice that kind of vindication. But this is a long game that he's playing, and this is enabling him to focus his attention, focus his resources on that battle that is most critical. So, I think this is a smart move.
Right. And it is a long game that he's playing. And I think that people need to keep in mind he did not ask to play this game. It's not
Mhm.
like he started all this shit and now he's having to settle with, with Esme and deal with this. No, it's all of this stuff. I mentioned the trials of Job earlier. I know there are a lot of people in life who have it worse than Marilyn Manson does, but he's really had an awful 2 years. And he has had multiple on multiple fronts. He's having to fight this war, and he was not financially prepared for it. I don't know the ins and outs of his finances, but I can look at the celebrity net worth websites just like other people can, and I'm not sure how accurate these sites are, but I know that prior to these allegations coming out, he had an estimated net worth of anywhere from 10 to 30 million. And then now, these same sites are saying that it's 2.5 million, which that's nothing. It's a lot for me, but for someone in his position who is having to fight what he's fighting, and again, he's paying out the ass $500 an hour to multiple people and not working. That is huge. And you made a really good point here about the fact that part of what's going on here, and this is what I've heard from my sources close to Manson as well, part of what's going on here is that he feels the need now to consolidate his efforts, not only consolidate his money, but consolidate his efforts on, just like you said, on the fish that's really the big fish. And Esme Bianco, as annoying as she is, and as annoying as it is to me that she's going to get any money at all from her lies, Esme Bianco is not the one who initiated this whole scam, this whole conspiracy. It was Evan Rachel Wood and her co-conspirator ex-girlfriend, Illma Gore. We know, and I've talked about it in my other shows, there's lots of evidence that they started recruiting women years ago, including Esme Bianco, for this. And so they are the root of the problem. People just need to understand that this man is suffering not only in terms of not being able to work and not only in terms of getting all this bad press and all the lies and gossip and everything, but he's suffering significantly financially for stuff that he did not do. And so I think the idea is to consolidate his efforts, consolidate his money, and really try to go after the main instigators here and really the root cause of this. And then I think that the hope is that if and when he is victorious against Evan Rachel Wood and Illma Gore, then retrospectively, then stuff like this, like the settlement with Esme, will make a lot more sense to people, and people will understand, okay, well, it turns out that this was a huge scam and that he is innocent, and I see why he had to settle, because he couldn't keep paying all this money to attorneys. And as I understand it, the options that were in front of him were either keep fighting this thing with Esme and take her all the way to court. As I understood it from my sources, that was going to take at least another year, because it's a very slow process. So he's looking at another year, and it's a year of continuing to pay all these lawyers and everything, right? And it's another year, and really for what, right? Because again, the main culprit here is Evan Rachel Wood and Illma Gore. That sounds like what you're saying.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And part of it too is because, just because he settled with Esme Bianco does not mean that her allegations, are done and out of the woods now. She is still part of this conspiracy. She's still part of, if nothing else, as a witness to the case in Evan Rachel Wood and Illma Gore have. So that's going to be telling, I think, as that case evolves and we see what, if any, role Esme Bianco ends up playing in there. Is she going to go testify for Evan Rachel Wood and Illma Gore? If she does, then everything that you would have heard in her own lawsuit, about the problems with her own allegations, and this process that led to this collaborative lawsuit filing, that's all going to still be on the table. Then you're going to get smacked with that, just like you would have been if your own case had gone to trial. So she's got a strong incentive not to cooperate, I think, with Evan and Illma, and so then if she's not a witness, well, that looks pretty telling too, doesn't it? All of this sisterhood of survivors or whatever is really crumbling fast when it comes to the put up or shut up time. So It's not ideal, like you pointed out. It's not the perfect solution, but it's rare that you get perfect solutions in the legal system anyway.